Hello and welcome to this video on 6 reasons for low reliability. My name is Geiser. I'm an instructor and statistical consultant with QuantFish. In this video, I discuss 6 of the most common reasons for why you might find a low reliability coefficient for a test or scale. So let's get started and let's talk about what reliability actually is first. So reliability is defined in classical test theory as the ratio of true score variance to total observed variance. In terms of a formula, we could write it like this. So the reliability of an observed variable y would be the ratio of the variance of a true score variable tau divided by the variance of y. And according to classical test theory, the variance in the observed scores y can be broken down into a true score variance plus error variance. So you can see that reliability tends to be high when the variance in the true scores is large relative to the variance in the observed scores. And the true scores are the scores that don't contain error. So that's the component, the variance component. Variance tau is that component in the observed variance that is error-free, whereas the observed variance component, variance y, also contains error variance, so random noise. And so now the question is, when do you get a high true score variance component and a low error variance component, or the opposite? So when do you find that the error variance component is higher than you would like, or the true score component is lower than you would like? And so let's talk about the first reason. Number one is simply when you have unreliable measures. So when your items or questions of your test or questionnaire are actually not reliable. When can that happen? This can happen when the wording of your items is unclear, such that individuals don't really understand what they're being asked. Or you have test items where the individual doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing, how those are being solved, and what the mechanism is of actually finding the correct solution. Here's an example of a bad questionnaire item. So this reads, often when I don't sleep well and I'm in an argument with my spouse, I'm having trouble focusing on my work and become impatient and irritable. So this contains a number of problems. One is it's terribly long, so an individual may not be able to follow the whole statement. Also, it is imprecise because it contains the word often at the beginning. It's not clear what this is supposed to mean. Often, does this mean every day? Does it mean multiple times a week? Or what exactly does this stand for? Also, the wording here contains different aspects: not sleeping well, being in an argument, working, being impatient, being irritable. So there's too many things being asked at once, and so individuals then may not be clear about how they are supposed to answer. So when you have something that is not clear or convoluted or otherwise problematic, this can lead to an unreliable measurement. Or when your items are not clearly visible, so let's say you have a bad printout or the font is too small so people can't read the questions properly, they might make mistakes because they just simply don't read the items correctly. So there's a whole bunch of technical aspects that can lead to unreliable measures, and that can lead to an increase in the error variance component and a decrease in the true score variance component, leading to a smaller or lower reliability measure. Second, having heterogeneous or multidimensional measures. So this means when your items measure more than one factor, however you apply implicitly or explicitly a measurement model for reliability calculation that assumes a single factor, like for example Cronbach's alpha, which assumes that your items measure a single factor. Here's an example. Let's say you're measuring positive affect with those 4 items that are shown here: happy, satisfied, calm, content, good. Not all of these items may measure exactly the same aspect of positive affect. It's different whether you're happy, compared to being calm, feeling good. So those are things that are probably positively related, correlated, but they're not necessarily unidimensional. They're not necessarily measuring only one underlying common factor, and that can then result in an inflation of the error variance component by item-specific variance or method variance. Here's another example when you have positively and negatively worded items. So happy and satisfied on the one hand, and then unhappy and dissatisfied on the other hand. Oftentimes when you have positively and negatively worded items, again, this violates the factor analytic assumption of unidimensionality, or the classical test theory assumption of unidimensionality in measurement models. So you might find two factors as opposed to just one factor. The two factors may not be terribly highly correlated. And so then as a result, this can again increase item-specific variance, which is confounded with error variance in unidimensional measurement models of classical test theory. So your error variance component gets inflated and you're underestimating reliability when you assume a unidimensional reliability coefficient for multidimensional measures. Third, having not enough measures. So one fundamental law of classical test theory is that random errors of measurement average out. And they have a better chance of doing that when you have more items, because then you have more opportunity for those measurement errors to sometimes be positive, sometimes be negative, and then overall to average to 0. So this means that all other things being equal, longer scales, longer tests, longer questionnaires tend to have higher reliabilities. Now, of course, this is not completely 100% true always. So when you have an extremely long questionnaire, at some point you can increase the reliability because people get bored with it, they get annoyed, they don't want to do it anymore, it's too long. So this doesn't apply in an endless way. However, generally it is better to have more items rather than having too few items. So when you have a 3-item scale, for example, that may not be reliable enough. Having instead maybe 12 items may be much better. One way you can see this is by the famous Spearman-Brown formula, which is graphically illustrated here in this graph. You can see on the x-axis M is the number of tests, and then on the y-axis you have reliability. And so this shows you that when you start, for example, with a single test component or item, and that single component, let's say, has a reliability of 0.6, so not very good, then if you add another component of the same kind, then your reliability will already improve to something that's about 0.75. And then if you add another component to it, then you'll be above, slightly at least, above 0.8 already. So this shows you that as you increase the number of components of a test, reliability tends to increase, at least mathematically. Of course, there's a limit to that, as I already mentioned, because at some point people don't want to take more components of your test. But that's an important point to keep in mind. When you find a low reliability coefficient, it may be due to an insufficient number of items. Fourth, having not the right reliability coefficient or using the wrong reliability coefficient. For example, using Cronbach's alpha when instead you should use McDonald's omega. So keep in mind that reliability coefficients come with implicit measurement models. For example, Cronbach's alpha comes with the assumption that you have a single factor tau equivalent measurement model. Tau equivalent meaning the items have the same loadings, here indicated with all loadings being fixed to 1 in a confirmatory factor analysis model. Also, it comes with the assumption of uncorrelated error terms, epsilon 1 through epsilon 4. And so only if that measurement model holds for your data would it be a good idea to calculate Cronbach's alpha as a reliability coefficient. If you have a violation of one or more of these assumptions, then Cronbach's alpha may be an underestimate of reliability. For example, if your scale is multidimensional, so you have more than one factor, we already discussed that, or if you have unequal loadings, or if you have correlated measurement error terms, then Cronbach's alpha may not be appropriate. McDonald's omega comes also with the assumption of a single factor model. However, it relaxes the assumption on the factor loading. So you can now have different factor loadings, lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4. They don't all have to be equal. It still comes with the assumption of uncorrelated error terms. So make sure you're using the right reliability coefficient. So test the underlying measurement model, test the measurement structure using confirmatory factor analysis. So make sure it's a unidimensional model. Test whether the loadings are equal. Test whether you have uncorrelated error terms, and then apply the proper reliability measure for your situation. Fifth, having a homogeneous population, or we could say having a restricted range. So remember that reliability in classical test theory is defined as the true score variance component to total observed variance component. And so now you can see it's a variance dependent measure. So if you have little true score variance, if your true score variance component in the numerator is small because individuals in your sample are very homogeneous, then you have a restricted range, and as a result, reliability will be small. So for example, let's say you do a study with highly gifted children that all have very similar IQ scores, and you measure intelligence. Then the reliability coefficient of your intelligence scores will likely be small because simply you have a small variability in your sample. So your true score variance component will be small because all those gifted children have very similar IQs. There's not a lot of variance in their IQ scores. And so therefore reliability could be unexpectedly small, even though you have a reliable test and a reliable measurement. However, this coefficient doesn't capture it because it is variance dependent. And then finally, having an insufficient sample size. A reliability statistic can itself be unreliable if you have too small a sample to examine reliability. So then perhaps you can't reliably calculate or estimate a reliability coefficient. You can determine the proper sample size via simulation, so you can determine ahead of time whether your sample size would be sufficient for proper computation of reliability. I hope you found this video useful to learn more about reasons for small reliability coefficients. My name is Geiser, and I'll see you in the next video.